guys, welcome to my channel. Tiffany here of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay, and if you are new, I am a professional costume and prop fabricator as well as educator here on YouTube, and would love to have you as part of our cosplay building community here, so subscribe to the channel. On today's cosplay tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to paint your own Princess Mononoke mask, as well as the ears. And if you missed how I made these out of EVA foam, I'll do a link in the description for that tutorial. So let's begin. And here are all of the materials that you will need for painting your mask. As a reminder, if you don't have an airbrush gun, you can always paint all of this by hand using acrylic paint. And I'll have a link to all of this in the description. First up is going to be priming both the ears and the mask. And for this, I used 3 heavy coats of Plastidip, which is a rubber spray paint. And you'll apply each coat and wait for it to dry before going on to the next one. Now for painting, and I'm going to be using Createx Colors Wicked Color airbrush paint, as well as my Iwata Eclipse airbrush gun. And if you're new to airbrush painting is all about painting in layers. So our base layer that I'm going to be using is jet black. And once that coat of paint is dry, I'm going to be using crimson, followed by Pyro Red. And this color we're going to be using more towards the center of all of the areas, and it's going to make the red pop a little bit more and give it a natural highlight. Then for shading, and we're going to be doing this all around the edges of the piece, and this is going to be a mixture of crimson and jet black. And then with just straight jet black, we're going to apply it in small areas at a time, applying it in a area about maybe 3 to 4 inches, and while the paint is still wet, you're going to get a paper towel and wipe the paint away. This is going to leave all of the black in the crevices, as well as once the entire piece is done with this process, we're going to be doing a new technique, which is getting your airbrush cleaner liquid and putting it a little bit on your paper towel. And while it's still wet on your paper towel, you're actually going to rub it onto this painted surface. And this is going to give it a natural buff-like look. And it's going to slightly remove the top surface of the paint, exposing the red underneath. Now, I'd only recommend doing this process for something that you want to look weathered and aged, as this may go down all the way past the red layer and can show the Plastidip underneath, especially when you put your masking tape on top, because the integrity of the paint is thinning out in these areas. So just be warned. And once you're done with that, you want to mask off all of the red painted sections. And for this, I'm using masking tape, and you don't want it to be too sticky, so apply it to your leg first before attaching it to the piece. This way it does not peel up your paint. Now for our next color, and there was a little bit of overspray onto these areas from before with red paint, so we're gonna just do another base coat of jet black, followed by a mixture of Pyro Orange and red oxide. And as a side note, orange tends to always dry a lot darker. So the next coat that I'm using is just straight Pyro Orange on the areas that I want to be highlighted in brighter orange. And last, for shading, and we're going to do the same process of applying our black around the areas we want to be shadowed. And then while it's still wet, we're going to wipe away with a paper towel, as well as following up with our airbrush cleaner, applying it to the paper towel and buffing out the areas we want to be highlighted, making it look like your hands have touched this spot a lot more and make the surface look a lot more oily and more like painted wood. And once that's dry, again, use masking tape and tape off all of your orange areas. And for our last area, which is all of the line pieces. And for this, I'm going to be using a dry paintbrush, which is a paintbrush that has not been dipped in water beforehand. It is only dipped into the paint directly and then applied onto your surface. And for this, I'm going to be using the color Cream, doing a more stimply-like texture throughout the piece, so that way it's not a solid color. And after that, back to shading, and for this, we're going to be using jet black, again applying it to our edges, as well as, while it's still wet, wiping it away with a paper towel, and following one more time with our new technique of the airbrush cleaner, putting it on the paper towel and buffing out the top surface to remove the top layer of paint. Now that all of your painting is done, it is time to remove all of your masking tape and reveal your painted mask. But wait, I want to add some more blood and make this look more, I've been out in the wild with critters. So if you want to do this step, you can. If not, you can skip this part. But for me, I wanted to add some blood-like splatters that match the rest of my cosplay build. And for this, I'm gonna be using the Candy coat line from Creatix Colors using their Blood Red. And for this, it is extremely liquid. You're gonna wanna wear gloves. It's very messy. But I filled up the cap with the paint, got my dry paintbrush and dipped it in and kind of just spritzed it onto the piece and dabbed it a little bit. And this just gave a look of blood onto the surface as something had been killed in front of me. And the very last step is to seal our pieces. And for this, I'm gonna be using Createx Colors UVLS Satin Clear. And I'm gonna be doing it 2 different ways. You can always apply this by hand with a paintbrush doing light coats onto the entire surface. However, if you used the candy color for the blood, you will have to use an airbrush gun as that paint line tends to smear and go everywhere. So you have to use an airbrush gun for this, but otherwise you can apply it by hand with a paintbrush like I did for the ears. And that, guys, is how I painted the mask as well as the ears. And I hope you found this video helpful for making your very own Princess Mononoke cosplay or just the mask and ears. There will be a tutorial after this for making the wolf cape, and it'll also go over how to attach these to it. So stay tuned for that tutorial. And if you found this tutorial helpful for you, remember to like this video as well as subscribe to the channel. And a big thank you to all of my company sponsors here on YouTube, as well as all of those members, specifically those legendary members who financially help to support me so I can continue doing this as my full-time job. And I will see you for our next cosplay tutorial. Much love, guys.